How about you scoot over? Fuck, man, how am I supposed to fit in?
Ready?
Seriously? Like, I'm off to the side over here and you get the whole fucking table? Why do you say sorry like that? Seriously?
Alrighty. Happy New Year, y'all. Well, Happy New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
It's the last episode of the year, episode 73.
Why is it like every time you say 70, it's like, I feel like it's the same number every time.
Because I did say 73 last week.
Okay.
And it wasn't 73.
No?
So, yeah, guys. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being a part of the show. It was an awesome year. We had some fun. What'd you think of the year?
It was a shitty year.
we made it through it.
Yeah, we did. It's crazy how we went the whole year, practically the whole year, without getting sick. And the last month we get sick.
Yes.
That seems kind of weird.
I wasn't training. I wasn't at the gym, and
You actually got a month off, which is good because I don't think you had any time off this year.
yeah,
You didn't have anything.
I think from the end of 2018 till this time, like I just been nonstop.
Look
And
at me. You have an eyelash in your eye. Come on, dude. Okay.
I've
Go on.
been nonstop. And it was good, cool, but at the same time, I love martial arts. I'm never gonna leave the mats. It's crazy. You don't miss the mats until you can't be on them, right? So it was just. I don't know. I got kind of sad. I didn't show it. I try not to show it, but I did.
Really? Come on. You got
What?
sad? You better not have cried when you got
I
to the
didn't
gym.
cry. No, I didn't cry when I got to the gym. No, I just it was hard. It was hard. I threw myself into this podcast. Once I knew I wasn't going to be able to go to the gym, I threw myself into this podcast, and it was a blessing in disguise. And I just worked my butt off, and January is going to show that. And this guest today, it should show it. Daniel Barbarisi. He is an author of the book Duelling with Kings. And holy crap, this is the episode that made me realize I'm in over my head. I want these smarter guests. I want these authors and these specialists. And actually, it wasn't even like that. So what happened was we had to do Zoom, and I needed to get guests. I didn't want to do Zoom, but finally I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do it.
I actually told you to do Zoom to beginning with, like months ago, and you're like, nah, I don't want to do that. I want the personal connection of someone sitting in front of me.
All spiritual.
Yeah, that sounded like something you would say.
But did you think I'd be able to do all this?
Am I being honest? Or you want me to lie to you or tell you the truth?
No, tell me the truth.
No.
Right?
No.
Me neither.
You had one job of putting the iPad on there and you let it fall. I'm just saying, you had one job.
You guys, I'm not a very intellectual.
Intellectual?
I fumble my words. I have no grammar.
Grammar.
I'm just not in like school savvy or grammar. I don't know. What do you?
I don't know.
I
Don't
want to
ask me.
major in communications. I can't fucking talk. I can't write. I don't. I just get addicted to shit. Like I got addicted to martial arts, and
I thought you were gonna say meth.
But,
It looked like you were about to say I got addicted to meth, but it was martial arts.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
But right, like, when have you seen me other than martial arts like really learn something?
Never.
Never, right?
No.
That's why I was talking to. I did a show. I did 2 shows. There's one Caleb versus Self. I messed that up because the other episode I put Caleb versus us. I said Caleb versus us. See, I mess up all the time, guys.
It's normal.
And let's start a conversation.
That's the other podcast you went on?
Yes.
Okay.
With Kevin. And Kevin is he has Bell's palsy, and
Is it Bell's palsy?
Bell's palsy?
Not Ball's palsy. Seriously?
Sorry, I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
Oh, God damn it.
Wow, you're a big asshole.
No, I didn't say that. But Kevin, if you're listening, I didn't mean to say that. But no, he's an inspiring person. He did everything he's done everything I wanted to do. He became a reporter. He became a journalist. Like he graduated from college and got his degree in communications.
And you were on his
journalism.
And you were on his podcast.
I was on his podcast.
Okay. And he's doing Zoom as well.
And then I talked to the next week the bone doctor's coming on, and then today is Daniel Barbarisi, and it's I never thought I'd be talking to these people. Like it's just I'm not.
Stop saying you're not smart. You're
not
smart.
That I'm not smart. It's just
I think it's so funny when
goofy.
Yeah, you're pretty goofy.
Yeah, awkward.
Yeah, you're pretty awkward. You're all of the above. I think it's funny when me personally, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't care. I can care less.
Yeah.
When you tell me something or whatever it is, and you're like, I'm trying to email this person. I'm trying to find their email. Yes, they fucking responded. I'm like, I don't care.
No, see, that's the thing. So what happened was,
I think you just get excited because you feel like these people will never respond to you, and they do.
Yeah.
So,
no,
but sometimes I don't want you to get your hopes up, because there's some people that are coming on.
Yeah.
And we've had people before say, "Yeah, I'm gonna come on," and it's like a no call, no show with no response back saying, "Hey, sorry, I can't make it," or "Hey, sorry, I'm just not ready at this time to be on the podcast."
Oh, it's a whole different ballgame.
But I'm saying I know some of the names that you have asked.
Yeah.
And
they said yes.
They said yes.
Yeah.
That are going to be coming on in a couple weeks or so. And I'm saying I don't like it when you get your hopes up and you're so excited about it.
Here's the thing.
So and so is going to come on. I mean, I might not know them and they might not intrigue me like they intrigue you, but I mean, you're always happy. I don't understand that.
It's someone's going to let me down. I don't blame them. I just move on. Like if you're not going to be part of the journey, then you're not going to be part of the journey. It's kind of like, it's just same. So we're fighting, and
no. I'm done talking about fighting. No.
But when I was fighting,
no, come on.
No, okay. When this goes into Daniel Barbarisi.
Give me a different example besides fighting. Can you?
I didn't do anything else but fighting.
Can you give me a different example besides fighting?
With fighting.
What about when you worked for FedEx? Can you give me an example with boxes?
No, but
I'm sorry. I'm just like, I don't want to be mean. I'm just tired of hearing you.
I'm not talking about
I know.
fighting.
I'm just saying why I'm telling you. I'm just tired of hearing about fighting. Like
I am too. I hear about it all the time.
Shut up.
No, but in 2018, when I first said, I want to be a fighter, like I literally was in the kitchen crying, 270 pounds, saying I want to be a fighter, and I haven't even stepped on the mat.
You look like a sausage.
But I haven't even stepped on the mats yet. And
no, it wasn't even 2018. It was 2013, when we got married, and you were in the car and you were crying to me that you want to fight. You want to fight for your family. You want to do this. Yes. It's been a long time.
It's weird because I get this vision of what I want.
Yeah.
I don't stop until something happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't care what people think. I don't care who lets me down or puts me down. It's just simple as, if you're not going to be part of the journey, then I move on. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to be mad at you, but it's just, I move on. And it's funny because.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. Why are your eyes all glossy for? I don't know. Were you crying in the shower?
No, I was not. Because I was sweating. Guys, I'm back at the gym. Hell yeah. I was in this house for 3 weeks finding guests.
It's basically been a month.
Yes.
It has been a month.
Yes.
It has.
I don't know. But so I'm just gonna keep on going. People don't understand who we have on next month and how much we're getting
Next
better.
year. We could say next year.
Next year. Whoop, whoop.
Next year.
And I found my little support system. People that support me. I hit them up, and I don't give a fuck.
Just so y'all know, it's less than 5.
Yeah, less than 5.
Well, it's all on one hand.
And it's just, I'm going to prove people wrong. I'm always going to prove people wrong. And Daniel Barbarisi, I listened to his book in 2018. Did I say this already?
No, you just said in 2018 when you made the...
When I made the decision to quit my job, I read his book. And he was the first book that I listened to and was really inspired. I listened to a lot of fiction, a lot of horror fiction. Robert McCammon.
You liked what's that one? The Swan Song.
Oh, the Swan Song, guys!
That one you listened to.
Holy crap!
Sorry, you guys. We can't say he read because we have Audible, so he listens to everything. Which is not a problem because I'd rather listen than read.
You guys don't understand. I can't learn from. I can't learn from actually physically reading a book. It's just I have a hard time. And when I started listening to stuff, it was like a whole different ball game. And it was just so I listened to his book and I'm like, man, this guy quit his job as a Wall Street journalist.
Well, don't give too much away. Maybe people might want to go read it.
Well, it's in the beginning.
Or they'll want to hear the story.
And he basically goes into daily fantasy football or daily fantasy sports. And it's just a really cool book. He's writing another book, or he wrote another book coming out in 2021, and I can't wait to interview him about that. He goes on looking for a treasure that a rich man hid somewhere to get people out of the house.
They were talking about that on I'm gonna say Facebook because I go on Facebook, but that somebody had hid it and people found it, or somebody had found it already.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the same story that he wrote, but somebody had found it already.
Yeah, someone found it.
Okay.
And we go into that. But this interview made me like, because I was barely prepared. I was like, okay, I read the book. I understand, like, I know him and I know what he does.
You don't know him?
Well, I don't know him. We bros now, bro. No, no, but
please don't ever talk like that.
I thought just because I listened to the book and I listened to it 2 times before I started listening to it again before I interviewed him, and I thought it'd be okay. I thought it'd be good, and man, so he gets on Zoom, and I'm still learning Zoom, and the sound's not coming on, and he's busy, so anything that goes over past the time, it kind of like, okay, you gotta get your stuff together, and I'm just fumbling, and I'm trying to fix Zoom, and
you get like that a lot when you get flustered. Yeah. Like you just things aren't going right,
and things don't go right when it's important to me. So I'm about to interview this guy, and things are not going right on the computer, and then finally I get it right, and I'm already flustered, and it's just when you talk to somebody that knows how to talk, I was intimidated. The next couple of guests, I was intimidated. So I need to get confident when I interview.
Fuck yeah! If you want to be not a reporter, what? Yeah. A what?
Just a journalist.
If you want to be a fucking journalist,
podcaster.
You are a podcaster.
But so one thing to be confident, you have to prepare. You really have to prepare. And I'm sorry, Daniel, if I was just flustered and
hopefully he'll be better the second time around.
But it's so cool. Even though that we're not in the thousands of listeners for each episode, it is so cool to be doing this. It's so cool to see these guys that are educated, and I've always wanted to be educated. Guys, like my pops, like would tell me I'm a piece of shit. I'm not gonna do anything, and that's what drives me.
Still does.
Yeah, it drives me every day, and it's like, you know what? Fuck that. You know, my dad had his problems, but
Sorry, Grandma Julie. Sorry,
yeah,
Grandma Cortez.
my dad has problems, and I forgive him for that. But it's still like I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. So getting to interview these people was like, hell yeah. I'm not gonna be dumb. I'm gonna be educated.
You're not dumb.
Yeah, but
You just get flustered. Anybody would
Yeah.
get flustered. Imagine
Yeah.
if they were sitting
especially
across from
learning
you.
stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the thing. I don't think you got flustered. I just sometimes Jesse waits till the last minute to get shit done.
Yeah. No, I had everything.
Oh, you
That
had
I
ev-
had
everything ready?
prepared, yeah.
Oh,
But what happened was I was signed into your email on the Zoom. So when I would go to my email to get into the Zoom,
yeah.
I clicked the link on my email to get into the Zoom, and my email was the host.
Okay.
So then
So did you sign me out
so
now?
I signed in as you,
Mm-hmm.
and so the host wasn't on.
Oh.
So I was trying to press record, and only the host can record. So I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And so I had to sign out, sign back in, and luckily he was cool about it. And it was so cool, guys. This next month was so awesome, and thanks for listening. Before we go into the episode, best guess so far.
I would have to say be my daughter.
Sorry, guys.
No. Let me see. Best guess so far.
That you really liked listening to.
I don't know. We've had a lot of good ones on.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of good stories. We've had a lot of like funny people on. It's hard to say. It really is. Everybody was good.
Yeah. Well, mine. Okay, so most awkward, Diego out of Adaptive Sessions. Most inspiring, Tony,
Uh-huh.
and the most.
I think I know who you're gonna say next.
Who?
Gloria.
No, Gloria was a very good one, and it's just Gloria's was like the beginning of what I want to do, because she was the first one of the first people I didn't really know. So when she sat down and started talking to us, it was like, I was like, man, this is amazing. She's telling us her story of her family coming from Mexico and doing all this, and it was just like that just set it off. I was like, this is what I want to do. My vision is coming true, and then hers was the foundation of what we want to do, right? And then Jim's.
Jim's? He's your number 3?
Like, no, like, just by far, like, when he was the first person to know his story. I've been telling my story. I did 4 shows now, different shows. It's hard telling your story.
You're still trying to get me on. That's why I don't want to go on. It's not that I don't feel like I have anything to say, but I don't think I could say.
Yeah.
I don't think I could say anything. I feel my response is, yeah, okay. I don't know. I don't feel like I can have a conversation. It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. And then it's hard to, so I messed something up, right? So I messed something up. I'm telling my story, and then I'm like, okay.
Flustered again?
Not flustered. I say it, and I it comes out, and I'm like, wait, that's not what happened. And then it's like you try to go back, but then you like, ugh.
That's why I tell you, like, when you try to tell me a story, I'm like, just get to the fucking point. Why are you going to tell me, like, the whole 15 minutes?
Now I'm, like, really looking into communications and how someone should talk.
And
it's like, you got to keep it short. You got to keep it to the point. And as somebody that doesn't really have that much speaking skills so far, I mean, coaching.
You have a lot of punching skills.
Not even that. Coaching helped me really talk, and now I'm bringing it to the podcasting. But I want to dive into it. It's like another man. I see the world right now. I'm seeing the world as a martial art. Just learn everything, right? And just it's amazing, guys. Once you believe in yourself and that you can learn everything, it's an incredible feeling. And like you said, like I think you still need that.
Need what?
Like you do the crafting and you do the hair and but sometimes I don't think you believe in yourself 100%.
No, I don't think I do. I don't.
And it's like I always tell you, it's like you don't like. I'm not getting mad at you. I just believe in you more than you believe in yourself, and it's just like
that causes an argument. Stop believing in me.
like how do you guys inspire your significant other? What happens when someone's as like crazy as me, and the other person's just like
What?
normal?
Awesome.
Like normal, right? Because no one's as crazy as me. But how do you inspire your significant other? Like, what do you do? You know, I don't know. Just send us a message or tell us or text me and.
No, don't
whatever.
text. Just send a message.
But today's episode, Daniel Barbarisi, he wrote Dueling with Kings. He's coming out with the book in 2021 of the summer of 2021. Chasing the Thrill. He's a Wall Street Journal, former Wall Street Journal Yankees beat writer. He's an editor for the athletic.com. And like this is insane. I interviewed this dude. But yeah, guys, incredible guy. Nice enough to come on the show. Nice enough to just really dive into what my questions were. And I can't thank him enough. It's awesome to end the year like this. Just full circle into what I want to do and the one guy that inspired me, and now I'm really going after it in life. And I love you guys. I love my wife. I really do.
You better love me.
I can't appreciate you more. You don't understand of letting me do this. You know?
I'm not letting you do it. You do what you want to do.
No, you are. You could.
Okay, I don't want the podcast here anymore. I want it over there. So next year for Christmas, my tree's going to go here.
But it's like, you guys, I haven't been the nicest husband. I've been a dick. I've argued with her. I messaged girls peach emojis.
And like message without emojis.
If I'm going to be honest, like I'm going to tell people, like I haven't been the most, like, I don't want to
say not faithful because you have been faithful just messaging.
When I got depressed, it's just a weird feeling. Like I needed an outlet. So I decided to just use social media and in the wrong way and message some girls. And it's just, I was depressed and I feel like an idiot now. I really do. Such an idiot.
That would do, pig. That would do.
No, I'm being honest. Like, I was thinking about it today. I got to be honest. Like, it's just, I got to be honest. Once you're married, and my sister-in-law always says, like, cheating's cheating. Like,
doesn't matter what it is.
If it's a message, if it's physical, like, if you're thinking about somebody else, cheating's cheating. And it's, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing what marriage is. And this lady right here, she hasn't stopped cheering me on.
I'm a lady.
But thank you guys for listening.
Have a safe New Year's.
Have a safe New Year's. I love you guys. In all honesty, subscribe, like.
We're 22 away from 100.
Yes, we're 22 away from 100. Subscribe, like, notifications on. Give us a review, guys, on Apple Podcasts. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Send us messages. I reply to all of them, guys. And
I look at them. He just replies to them.
I reply to all of them. So send us a message. Our email for fans is thehassleofhair@gmail.com. Thehassleofhair@gmail.com. Send us questions. I check them every day. I check everything every day. And if you really like the podcast...
Whoa, someone's doing fireworks.
If you really like the podcast, go ahead and tell a friend. That's the best way to share stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not to subscribe or do that. Subscribe. But the best way to do it.
What was that?
Sorry. So the best way to do it is to tell a friend. So if you really like the episode, go ahead and tell a friend. Kiko, thank you for supporting. Jim, thank you for supporting. Leticia, thank you for supporting. Jocelyn, thank you for supporting. I forgot to say these people um, the other day. Gloria, we said her last time.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay. Gloria again.
But thank you for supporting, guys. You guys are awesome, and enjoy the episode. We'll see you next year. Big guests. Can't wait to tell you guys. Love you. Peace. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and get started. So
good. We're kind of recording and everything.
Yes, I got it recording.
It says recording. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got the sound going. So, and then my sound sounds great.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Sorry about that, Daniel. So welcome to the Hassle of Hair. I was telling you my story, and that I first heard of Dueling with Kings through Audibles, and I listened to it, I think, in 2 days, and I listened to it actually again later that year in 2018, and I recently started listening to it again to catch up, to refresh my memory. But you wrote a book about your journey through fantasy sports. You actually jumped into the world to NHL fantasy sports, right?
Yeah, I did them all, but that's the one I became good at.
Yeah. And you first started off as a journalist for the Wall Street Journal, and you quit that job and you jumped into you jumped into fantasy sports right when it was huge, right when it hit the big time.
Yeah, well, that was the idea. It was okay. There's something clearly happening here. There's a phenomenon taking place. This isn't just something going gradually. It was the time when all of a sudden, out of literally nowhere, DraftKings and FanDuel ads were absolutely everywhere, and you couldn't avoid them, and it was just everywhere all the time. And it was like, okay, what is this thing? Something different is happening here, and no one, in my opinion, was telling the story of it, not in the way that I wanted to. So my thought was, okay, this is like a moment in time, and those only come around so often. So if you want to capture that and take advantage of that, you got to go all in on that. And so my concept was go in there, tell the story, become one of these guys, figure out what the heck is going on here, and tell the tale of it really from the inside. And so I wanted to do that while staying at the Wall Street Journal. But when I told them like my plan to do this book, they were like, we can't let you be an active sports writer and a professional gambler. And I was like, I do understand that. So I said, all right, well, look, I believe in the story. I believe that this is the most important thing I can do. So I'm going to quit. So I quit that job and became, essentially a full-time daily fantasy sports player, with the intention the entire time of chronicling not just my experience, but the larger industry and how it had come out of nowhere and how it exploded. And the book, I think it's funny because I think a lot of people think of it as like a personal story, but I actually see it as a history book. I kind of used my story as a way to tell the history of this weird moment in time and this weird phenomenon when a bunch of bros basically managed to legalize and nationalize sports betting without anybody noticing.
Because you went back and forth between your story and the story of it being illegal and illegal all in the same time frame.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was what was crazy to me. And it was all happening in real time. It was a story where I knew the beginning, but I had no idea what the ending was going to be, when I started it, which can be a very tricky thing. When you try to write a book and sell a book to book publishers, they want to know the ending. They don't want to hear from you that you have no idea what's going to happen next. They want essentially a guaranteed subject matter and a guaranteed good, happy ending, conclusion, all that. I couldn't give them that. I said, look, I think I'm in the middle of a really cool thing here. I think I've put myself in a position that other people have no ability to be in. I think I am the right person to tell this story, but you got to just trust me that it's going to work out. This daily fantasy thing is going to be here in a couple of years, and that I'm going to have a great story out of it. And the way I looked at it was, okay, if I win big, that's a great story. If I lose big, that's a great story. The only thing that wouldn't be a great story is if I essentially broke even. So, I wanted either great success or great failure from a storytelling point of view. And, it turned out I had great success, but there was certainly no guarantee of that at the time or really at any point in it.
And I kind of jumped into the world of fighting, and I had to tell my wife, hey, I'm going to quit my job to pursue my dream, or just pursue my dream of fighting.
Yeah.
And you had to, she was your wife at the time, right?
Yes, we got married 2014. So by the time I started the book, yes.
Yeah. And how did that conversation go down when you told her, I'm going to quit my really good job at Wall Street Journal and decide to gamble?
Yeah, I mean, it was, fortunately she's a writer too, so she understands, the need to tell the story and the importance of that world and all that, and the chance to capture something when you really feel like you have to do it. And, there's really a window in time. It's not going to be there in 2 years. If you don't take the leap, the story's gone, it's not going to wait for you. So she understood that, like, this was a special thing, a weird moment and a special phenomenon. And I was, again, in a very good position to tell the story. So, I think she didn't mind me quitting my job part to do that. I think she was much more nervous and skeptical about the gambling side of things. She thought I was definitely going to lose all our money, like absolutely. And then I was going to have like no way to control the urges that do come with the kind of thing like that. That the addiction, the obsession, all of it, that, I was not a gambler before this. I was not somebody who had any background in it whatsoever. So, she figured I was going to get my ass kicked and that I was going to lose all our money and that I was probably going to become addicted. So, I think there was a lot of worry from her side on that stuff, not really about whether it was okay to quit the job or not, because I think she saw that I had a chance to capture a really cool story. So that part was all good. I just had to make the whole gambling thing work.
Yeah. And I do want people to read your book, and I want them to know about it. But I honestly, I wanted to actually talk to you about your history, about how you grew up and where you grew up and how you became a journalist. Because a lot of people, if you don't know, he's not just an author. You actually wrote for the Yankees and Wall Street Journal, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, I was the beat writer covering the Yankees for the Wall Street Journal for 5 years. Before that, I was I covered the Red Sox for the Providence Journal, and before that, I was actually the Providence Journal doing politics and news stuff. So I was like the City Hall reporter covering city politics and crime and that kind of stuff. So, to me, it's all just being a reporter, whether you're on sports, whether you're on news, whether you're telling stories like the way I do now. It's in some ways really the same job. And so, to get to the beginning of your question, I grew up just outside New York City, New York suburbs, Rybrook, a little small town. And I, from a reasonably young age, 10, 11, 12 or so, thought they would be really awesome to be a reporter, but I had no idea how to do that. I read the New York newspapers every day, the Daily News, New York Post, New York Times. But I didn't know how you go from being a kid who does this and is okay at writing to being a reporter. No concept of how you make that transition. But I worked for the little high school paper at my school and wrote for them. And I did the okay enough job that the little local paper in town, which, little tiny little local paper said, we'll pay you a little money to cover town council meetings. And I said, okay, that's great. And, I think we were talking about before, they offered me like $45 for my first story. And it was like, my mind was completely blown. I had no concept that someone would pay me at that time that much money to do this. And I was like, this is amazing. I need to do this for a living. So, I tried doing it in college for the college paper. I eventually became the editor of the college paper at Tufts, where I went undergrad. And then, got a good internship at the Boston Globe that really kind of opened things up for me and allowed me to, from there, get a real job in the real world once I graduated. And, from there, it's just, you try to take advantage of opportunities and, work your butt off and get a little lucky and try to put yourself in the right position and take some risks, and if you do those things, sometimes it works out. It doesn't always work out. It's a nice story to say it does. It doesn't always, but if you get lucky, maybe it does. So, that's kind of where I was. I just always wanted to do this. I never really thought about doing anything else, frankly. I didn't really have a good fallback plan if this whole thing didn't work out. I never really have. It's just kind of like, all right, whatever the next thing is, we'll try that. So that was kind of the idea when I quit the Wall Street Journal job too. It was like, we'll try this book thing now and we'll see what happens after that. And then, after the first book was done, The Athletic, which hopefully, I think it's great. Big national sports website called and said, we want you to be an editor. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I haven't done that. That's a new challenge. That sounds really cool. I'd like to help other people work on their writing instead of doing more of it myself. So I do that now. And then my next book is coming out in June about this big treasure hunt in the Rocky Mountains.
I saw that.
Yes. And we can talk about that later if you want, or I can go into that now, whatever works for you.
But I did want to ask you about your time at the Wall Street Journal, and I'm a huge baseball fan.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
yeah, huge baseball fan, and I'm an A's fan. And
Okay.
during the time you were a beat writer there, people don't understand now. The fans now that are younger than me, they don't understand how big the Yankees were in the early 2000s. Right?
Yankees, Red Sox was everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
And the Yankees were, Derek Jeter was huge. I don't think
Yes.
there's ever going to be a baseball star like Derek Jeter ever again. And
Certainly not right now. Yeah.
and I was reading one of your articles, and it talks about how you had tweeted out something on social media.
Oh God, yeah. When his now wife got mad at me, yeah.
Yeah, you were in the elevator with his wife, and you ended up tweeting. You made the mistake of being too open on social media, and he ended up talking to you about it.
It's something like, so I was one of the beat writers who traveled around with the team, flew around the country with them. So, we all know each other, but, not like Derek Jeter's pal, but like, we can talk and stuff. And so, he was very well known as obviously a man about town. He was, a bit of a player. That was not a surprising thing to anybody. And, you would have different Jeter girlfriends kind of come through spring training every year. It was Minka Kelly for a while, and there was various others. And then, Hannah Davis, who's a Sports Illustrated model, who he ended up marrying and having kids with. She was there for one time, and I was in the elevator with her, and as you're correct, it was kind of early social media. It was like 2012-ish or something, probably. So, I did make the mistake of tweeting something along the lines of, hey, spring training, bucket list checked, got to stand in the elevator with one of Derek Jeter's, famous girlfriends or something like that. There was nothing like untoward about it, but she didn't like that. And apparently she read my tweet, and she didn't like that because, it portrayed her as just the latest in the long line of many famous, beautiful women he dated, which is true, by the way, but she didn't like that. And then, of course, she gives him crap about it. And then he doesn't like that because he's got to now deal with, his girlfriend being mad at him about some idiot thing that some idiot guy said, even if it's completely true. And he then came to me about it, and he was ticked to me saying, why you got to do that? And I'm like, dude, like, you're Derek Jeter, this is part of being you. Everyone's like, whoa, this guy brings, a new famous, beautiful girlfriend to spring training essentially every year. And, it's like, kudos to you, right? But he was not, I can see from his point of view, he's just like, he doesn't want anything to cause problems in his life. He doesn't want his girlfriend coming to him saying anything like, what's this guy? Am I just the latest flavor of the month? Even if she should know that, that's still not something that anybody wants to deal with. So I get that. I do get that. And it turned out, obviously, that he was more serious about this one than others because he ended up marrying her and having, I think, at least 2 kids with her. So he cared in a way he probably didn't in previous situations. But yeah, look, covering the Yankees was a very, very cool thing. Again, grew up as a kid just outside New York City. I don't think I ever dreamed of covering the Yankees per se, but I know that would have been a very cool thing to do even as a kid,
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it was a real interesting thing to get to do, to go and be in the space of this thing and go around the country with a baseball team for 5 years. And I'd done the Red Sox the same thing for 2 years before that. So, it's just a very, very unique life that anybody who's not in it, it's incredibly hard to describe it to them what it's really like to spend 10 months a year basically in this traveling circus, when you're spring training for 2 full months, and your family is basically the other beat writers who are also your competition, but you have no one else who you're going to be able to go around the country with and fly on airplanes with and see it. Hey, we got to connect from Kansas City to Columbus to Detroit at 6 a.m. so we can get there for the 1 o'clock game, and then you write the game and you go out. It's a whole very strange, hectic, frenzied life that, doesn't stop. And it's highly stressful and highly competitive, and it's also very cool and fun, but it is definitely like a very, very weird thing. And honestly, by the time I quit the Wall Street Journal job, I was ready to get out of it. It wears you down over time if you didn't always want to do that for your whole life, and that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a reporter and tell cool stories and do different things. This was a cool thing to do for a while, but it wasn't my goal to spend 30 years as a baseball writer, So I think I did it for a while. I was happy with that, and I'm very happy to not be in it anymore.
And I think you saying that reminds me of something my grandma just told me about. She told me about almost 4 months ago now. She says that doors close and then doors open. and you took that next step and went into that next door, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Book writing. I was like, all right, that was just a cool thing. And that's another one of those things where it's like, how do you do this? How does one become that? It's another one of those things where you don't know how to do that. And then you just kind of figure it out and you do it. And I guess I got an agent and I was like, I have a cool story to tell. Actually, it's funny. Full circle. That Derek Jeter story is what got me my agent. So the first thing to do to write a book is you have to get a literary book agent who's at a reputable place. That's hard to do because they're not going to just take anybody on as a client. Usually they have to come to you. Obviously you have a big advantage if you're somebody, who's a known writer at like a major newspaper, obviously, versus like Bob on the street. But still, at the same time, they don't know that a journalist is going to be able to translate what they do, writing news stories, into being an author and actually writing books in interesting ways. It's a related skill set, but it's not the same skill set. So the Jeter story is actually what got me my agent, because after that, my agent to be contacted me and was like, hey, I think you write really well. If you ever want to write a book, I think your style would translate really interestingly to writing books. And I was like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that, but that's kind of a cool thing to keep in my back pocket. So I was like, I don't have any book ideas, but if I ever do, I'll let you know. And then a couple of years later, when the daily fantasy thing had started to explode, and I was like, this thing is getting big. This is something I should check out. I remember I had that agent's contact info, and I was like, hey, I think I have a really good story here. I'd like to write it. Do you want to represent me and represent this book? And she was like, absolutely. That sounds amazing. And so that all kind of came together from there. So you had that one pegged right, that there's a lot of, those doors opened in concert, actually. And those were important ones that went together.
Do all journalists have curious minds as much as you do? Because you have a very
so I don't know.
Because I think that's what translates.
There's a curiosity there, but I don't know.
The way you talk about it, I think it translates well to reporting and book writing, because you're so curious. You just want to know. And that I was reading a little bit about your new book coming out. It's about a man that is really rich that wants to dive into treasure hunting.
All right, so I'll give you the short version. So, 10 years ago, this old rich art dealer, ex-fighter pilot out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, this guy named Forrest Fenn, he hid a treasure chest somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, and he wrote a poem and a book that were essentially act as a treasure map to lead you to it. And he just kind of put it out there and said, go have at it. And there was $1 million to $2 million worth of treasure there. And he said, go find it. And it turned into this huge international phenomenon, and hundreds of thousands of people have gone searching for this chest over the last 10 years. And so I heard about that story, and it was like, oh, this is a crazy cool story. I want to go tell the story of this thing, And so I did, and became in very similar fashion to Dueling with Kings. Actually, our friend Jay Rayner, Beat by Majid, is my treasure hunting partner in this book.
Oh, snap. Awesome.
He makes a sequel return.
Yeah.
He's very much in it. He is actually who clued me into it in the first place. He's like, have you heard about this treasure hunt? I was like, the what? This thing's crazy. So we started going and becoming treasure hunters not long after Dueling with Kings. The narrative ended there in 2017, after he won the hockey final the year after I won. So right after that, we basically became treasure hunters and went searching for this thing in order to tell the story of the world of treasure hunting and what happens when you drop a treasure hunt into the modern world and all the crazy things that go wrong. And so basically just been telling the story of that for the last few years, and a lot of weird stuff has happened with that. 5 people died looking for the chest, and then it got really controversial and crazy. Yeah. And then finally this past summer, June of this last year, it was found. And so, I kind of was able to tell the story of the guy who found the treasure and how he did it. And, kind of just tell the story of this thing from start to finish. And so I think it's another very cool, weird story where, again, like I said earlier, you don't know the end when you're starting. You're kind of just writing it and hoping it gets to a cool place. And I have, again, been lucky, and there is nothing here but luck. There's nothing I did. This is pure luck that it ended exactly on the timetable I would like.
Yeah.
And so I get a cool ending right in time to kind of write the whole book together.
And so you're actually my first guest that I networked, and I went on the computer and emailed you, right? Every guest that I had on was basically a friend of somebody or somebody I knew, mostly in the fight world or fighting.
Yeah.
But I had a little taste of actually making effort to find an interesting story,
When you first started the new book, what's the new book called? Sorry.
Called Chasing the Thrill.
Chasing the Thrill. When you first started writing Chasing the Thrill or doing information, what comes into gathering information for the book?
A lot of things. I mean, you don't start writing till way deep into the process. I spend a lot of time, it's a very involved process. You got to do a lot of interviewing and kind of outlining and understanding the world of it for months to years first. And then, from there, you can kind of really start writing stuff. But I mean, and so in the book world, when you actually craft a book, you don't just drop the book on the world right away. You actually come up with what's called a book proposal. And you have to actually kind of have a framework of the book all laid out. And with these things like sample chapters that show, this is what I'm going to do in chapter 3. This is what I'm going to do in chapter 4. This is what I'm going to do in chapter 5. Even if you don't really fully know that yet, you have to kind of treat it that way. And you have to write full kind of 10,000 or so words, like, here's a sample of what will be in the book. And you can use a lot of that later. And I did. But you have to do a lot of stuff on the front end before you even get the book deal. And then you present that whole, and I think mine was like 100 pages document to publishers. And then they can say, okay, we think this book will work or not. And if nobody says it works, you've just wasted a year of your life. And that's fine. But that's just kind of part of the deal, and you're not going to get paid back for any of that time. You get just nothing, and everything you do is out of your own pocket. So, flying out to Santa Fe, interviewing people and talking to things, you're just SOL. So, there has to be a leap of faith with these things. But, it's worth doing if you think you have a story that you believe in. And I certainly have both these times. But yeah, it's a lot. And so once you have kind of your early stuff reported, then you can kind of start writing. But, you're continually, especially in stories like these, writing and reporting and writing and reporting and writing and reporting as you go. It's like, okay, I got enough for chapter 7. I think this will make a good chapter 7. I think, what the hell do I do in chapter 8? Okay, I think I can make this thing work for the next chapter. All right, what do I do now? And you're kind of just making it up as you go. And then there's things where, like I had several different later parts of the book and endings, and then the treasure was actually found. And of course, I just rip all that stuff up and throw it out. You're throwing out like 30,000 words of somewhat good, somewhat not great stuff you've written. And that's just part of the deal, So it's a lot of being able to adjust on the fly and just understand that you're going to be kind of, hanging on for dear life in a sense, and that's okay. Some people are not okay with that, and then you can't do these kind of books. You got to do a kind of thing where the ending already, what's going to happen, everything about it. But if I had, let's say, waited until the story was over, then my book doesn't come out till 2024, and you're way behind the times. And like Forrest Fenn, the guy who hid the treasure, for instance, he died in September. So there are people now who want to try to write books on this thing because the treasure was found. And they're like, oh, what a cool story. But they can't do it because the guy's gone. The things all happened. You literally can't duplicate all the stuff I did. It's impossible. So, I mean, there are great benefits to putting yourself into the story while it's unfolding versus trying to tell it after the fact. But it also comes with a lot of indigestion, essentially, because you really are trying to figure it out as it goes along, and that's very hard to do.
Do you go based on memory, or do you have a notebook? Do you have a recorder?
Oh, I have a notebook. I have a tape recorder. I mean, I take pictures. I try to document as much as I can. At the time, I take copious notes in the moment. I go back through all my recordings later. Again, I take pictures to make sure I can see little details in things that I might not even see the first time, in scenes and places that I'm in. Your brain is great. And I like to think that over time, you get better at remembering things, and a trained professional, honestly, is going to remember things that somebody else might not. But
not
at the
if
same
you get
time,
punched
your
in the
memory is
face.
still faulty. What's that?
I said, not if you get punched in the face.
Yeah, no, seriously. I know. Yes, absolutely. I mean, no question.
Yeah.
That's an occupational hazard. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, I also don't trust my memory in the sense of I want it to be exact and perfect. I'm not paraphrasing things. I'm writing everything down as it happens. I'm recording everything as it happens. If somebody challenges it later, I need to be able to say, no, listen to the recording. This is exactly what you said. And I had that happen several times in Dueling with Kings, and people were like, that's BS. I didn't say that. I'm like, oh yeah, listen to this recording. And then they back the hell up. And that's the end of that. There's nothing you can do. I mean, I'm telling the truth. They're not, so it's not that people aren't telling the truth. It's that sometimes people don't realize the way they sound, or the things they say and the way it comes across. And then, when something doesn't come out like a book for like a year and a half to 2 years, they say, oh, well, that's not what it was. And so it's important to have that, historical record there to be able to say, well, yeah, it is. It's exactly this.
It's crazy. Once I started recording myself and hearing myself talk,
Yes.
I realized on how much of an idiot I sound.
We all do. I believe I often, when I have to like transcribe interviews and stuff, I usually just skip my own parts because I hate hearing myself and the dumb things I say so much. So that's a very natural reaction that you're having.
Okay. So in my head, when you're telling me about the book, I keep on forgetting.
Chasing the Thrill.
Yes, Chasing the Thrill. I'm picturing you dressed up as Indiana Jones, and you have where are these locations that you guys are going to?
There's a little bit to that. It's a lot of like, weird, there's a little bit of cave action in it, but it's really through the Rocky Mountains. So in Yellowstone National Park and deep in the woods of Montana, up in the kind of northern wilds of New Mexico, a little bit in the mountains in Colorado. So, not exactly in ancient Egypt, but I get what you're saying. And, some very cool places, not places that I would have had any reason to go otherwise. I'm out here in the Northeast, I'm in Boston now. So, that's not exactly my normal stomping grounds. So it was actually very cool for me to get to go to places like Yellowstone and experience, buffalo and elk wandering down the road right in front of you and all this kind of stuff that, I just don't see in my daily business. So, it was pretty cool, actually, very cool experience.
So what's next? How do you promote your book during COVID?
Well, I mean, fortunately, like the publisher has a pretty good, publicity team, and like generally speaking, it's a little early for it, honestly. So it comes out in June. So most of the publicity stuff will happen in May and June. But there's a lot of stuff getting lined up now. I mean, so I did a thing like a month ago with I put out a story that actually revealed who the guy who found the treasure was, and nobody knew who that was before this. And that served to kind of launch the book. And that was big news. It was all viral, et cetera. And so that was really useful because then a lot of TV people came out of the woodwork and said, we want to have you on. And so, I taped like CBS This Morning and Inside Edition and those kind of things. And that serves to kind of get the word out about the book. And then, so you've kind of gotten this launch bump, and then hopefully in 6 months, the publicity people go out and they say, look, here's this cool book. You heard about it 6 months ago when this thing was happening. It's out now. Let's talk about it. And then I do interviews and that kind of stuff. And that's part of the job, as you can tell, I don't mind talking, so it works out fine.
Yeah. It's awesome for me too. Because I'm doing this podcast, and a lot of people, they come on and they just don't know how to talk sometimes.
It's harder than people realize.
Yeah.
There's a skill to it.
So as somebody that's, because I see you as successful, right? I see you as someone that wrote for the Wall Street Journal, someone that is on his second book. And I grew up in San Jose. I grew up in East Side San Jose.
I have been to San Jose. Yep.
Yeah. And East Side San Jose is not the best area. And there's not that many successful people that are around you when you're living there. And my theme for my podcast is I want to be able to show people that don't have anybody to inspire them. I want them to see people that are successful, and they're not that different from anybody else. And you're just taking a leap. You're taking chances, and that's very important when you're doing something. And I wanted to give you a chance to if you have any words for people that need inspiration to do something. What does it take to go after your dreams?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've actually hit on it a little bit. I think every time that I've had a thing that ended up being successful, I don't know if quote unquote I am a success, but I have had some successes. And in every one of those, literally almost every single one, I can trace it to the moment where it's like, there's that clear risk in front of you. And the thing is, oh, I could not do this, or I could just go do this. And you really have that choice. There is that like crossroads moment. I can point to it, every single one of these things, and thinking, well, I could just like go home, or I don't have to make that phone call, or whatever. I'll just not think about it. And you end up staying up all night and doing that project, or trying that thing, or getting in touch with that person, or, applying for that job. And every single one of the things that I think has gone well for me, I can trace to that moment where I said, okay, I don't really know if I should do this, but all right, screw it, I'm gonna go do it. And like that risk moment though, I mean, is to me the most important thing in success. And when you have that moment where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. This is definitely going to be a pain. It may not work out okay. I could risk something by doing this. And then you go and do it anyway. And it doesn't always work out. But I can tell you that every single one of the things that I have seen as big successes in my life has come from one of those moments when I absolutely could have gone to bed. And sometimes I did. I don't know what the things that I missed out on by not taking those paths are sometimes. But I know that the things that did work come back to that moment. So when you feel that moment, and you're like, oh, okay, I could try this, but maybe I won't. If you do it, that's your moment. I don't know if it's going to be that time, but those feelings, when you think you have an opportunity and you can see it in front of you, but you know it's a risk and you know it's going to be a pain and you know it's going to be hard and you have a real chance of failure, and that's scary. Failure is scary, absolutely. Taking the risk, putting yourself out there is scary, absolutely. And we all have to fight ourselves on that. And but those are the moments that can change your life. Those are the moments when you beat yourself and you get to the next level because you take that risk that you might not have otherwise taken. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. I have no idea about that, but I know that for me, at least, I can always trace it to those individual moments, those little moments in time when you take that chance and you say, okay, I'm going to try it. And that, I think, is, at least in my experience, the key to everything.
Awesome. I love that. And your books, I mean, from Dueling with Kings and chasing
the
thrill. I think they're they're examples of that because you're taking the chances of the unknown, right?
Yes.
And,
I mean, generally speaking, the people who I've known who are successful are the people who are not afraid to take risks. And that doesn't mean it always works. There are going to be times and people who take risks and it doesn't work.
How many times have you failed?
Many, many, many times. Oh my God. Yeah. Failure is a part of the process. Failure is an important part of the process. You don't want to fail all the time, but failing is okay, and it's very hard becoming I'm not going to say okay with failure, but understanding that failure is part of life is so important, I think. Understanding that failing is okay. Failing is part of succeeding. Failing is a thing that you do it bad, it doesn't work. Even if you didn't do it bad, it doesn't work. You got to go again, or you have to attack it in a different way. You have to learn from that. You have to continue. And if you can do those things, then success follows. Sometimes it follows the first time, sometimes it takes 100 times, sometimes it doesn't come. But in general, failure is an important part of the process. And I certainly have had to overcome a fear of failure. I think we all do. Everybody has that, and people have it to different degrees. But you're generally speaking not going to succeed unless you're willing to fail a little bit. And that's okay. That is okay.
Where can people find your Instagrams, your all your social medias, your books?
I'm not terribly active on social media, but I am at Dan Barbarisi on Twitter, at DanBarbarisi. I think my website is Dan Barbarisi or DanielBarbarisi.com, whichever one works. I think they both work. I think I pay like $20 a year for each of them, so hopefully they work. The books are both, one of them you can buy pretty much anywhere. The other one will be out in June, and you will definitely be able to get that anywhere. Audio, Kindle, whatever, however you wanted to consume it. We have a way for you. I'm just, I don't know. That's ways to find me, I guess.
Yeah. And is there a way I could send you a copy of Dueling with Kings to get it signed, or?
Yes.
You're
still out on the West Coast, is that right?
Yeah, I live on the West Coast.
Okay. I mean, look, if you have the ability to send me a self-addressed stamped envelope to return, with it, send it out to me. I'll happily sign it, send it right back to you.
Yeah. And I just want to thank you for doing this interview with me.
Absolutely, man.
It's inspiring for me. And I think we'll end it on that. I think that was.
Thank you so much for having me. It's cool to get to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm barely realizing right now that I read your book right when you started your journey, not your journey of being an author, and I'm interviewing you, and the beginnings of being an author. I think you're going to write a bunch more books, and I'm happy that I got an interview with you before you write a bunch of other books. So
we'll see. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I honestly don't know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever the next adventure is, that's what I'm excited for.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Daniel. You guys go check out his book, Dueling with Kings. He has a bunch of articles. Sorry, it's the Athletic. The Athletic,
yes. Big national sports website. It's pretty
Yes.
awesome. So I run the Boston operation for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for being a guest today.
Just thank you so much for having me, man.